So there I was, pulling into my own driveway at 6 a.m. after driving 12 hours straight, when Karen Whitmore, our delightful HOA president, comes storming out of her McMansion like I'd just murdered her prized petunias. "You can't be here," she shrieked, still in her fuzzy pink bathrobe. "This is a violation of community standards." Now, I should mention that I'm Detective Mike Harrison, 23 years with the state police. I've dealt with murderers who had better manners than this woman. But hey, I was tired, coffee-deprived, and just wanted to enjoy my 2 weeks off at the cabin I'd owned for 8 years. "Morning to you too, Karen," I said, grabbing my duffel bag. "Lovely weather we're having." She actually stepped in front of my cabin door. The audacity was breathtaking. "You're supposed to file a residence notification form 72 hours in advance. I'm calling the authorities." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I pulled out my badge, slowly, dramatically, the way I'd learned pisses off entitled people the most. "You mean me?" Her face went through more color changes than a chameleon having an identity crisis. But did she back down? "Oh, sweet summer child, you don't know Karen Whitmore. Tell me where you're watching from. And has anything like this happened in your city?" That doesn't matter," she sputtered. "Rules are rules. You're disturbing the peace." The only thing disturbing the peace was her voice reaching frequencies that could shatter wine glasses. But I've learned that sometimes you have to let crazy people dig their own graves. So I shrugged and headed for my door. That's when I noticed something odd. My security camera, the one I'd installed after the last HOA incident, was hanging at a weird angle. And my spare key rock had been moved. Not by much, but when you're trained to notice details, these things jump out at you. "Karen," I said slowly, "has anyone been maintaining my property while I was gone?" She got that look. You know the one, like a kid caught with chocolate on their face insisting they didn't eat the cookies. "Of course not. No one's been here. That would be trespassing." Right. Because Karen Whitmore had never bent a rule in her life. I unlocked my door and stepped inside. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Not the stale, closed-up cabin smell I expected. Someone had been cooking. Recently. And unless ghosts had developed a taste for instant ramen and energy drinks, I had an unwelcome houseguest situation. "What's that noise?" Karen demanded from behind me. I listened. Sure enough, there was a rhythmic thumping coming from upstairs. My bedroom, where someone was apparently having the time of their life in my bed. This was going to be interesting. The thumping stopped. Then I heard scrambling, like someone trying to untangle themselves from sheets while simultaneously having a panic attack. "Amateur hour." "Hello," I called out cheerfully. "Property management here for the monthly inspection." A door slammed upstairs. Then another. Someone was playing musical rooms up there, and they weren't very good at it. Karen had gone suspiciously quiet behind me. When I turned around, she was backing toward the door with the expression of someone who'd just realized they'd brought a butter knife to a gunfight. "You know what, Mike? I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'll just head back home and—" "Oh no, Karen. Stay." I gestured to my couch, the one that had clearly been used as someone's personal fort judging by the nest of blankets and empty pizza boxes. "I insist. After all, you're so concerned about community standards." More scrambling upstairs, followed by what sounded like someone trying to squeeze through a window that was definitely too small for human passage. Physics, not just a suggestion. I pulled out my phone and started recording. For the record, it's September 15th, 6:23 a.m., and I've just discovered that someone has been living in my cabin without permission. I turned the camera toward Karen. "Say hi to the internet, Karen." She went pale. "You can't record me without consent." "Actually, in this state I can. One-party consent law. Perks of being in law enforcement. You learn these things." I smiled my most professional smile. "Now, want to tell me who's been playing Goldilocks upstairs?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." The ceiling creaked. Heavily. Like someone weighing about 200 pounds trying to ninja walk across old floorboards. As it turned out, subtlety was clearly not genetic in the Whitmore family. That's when it clicked. Karen's precious baby boy, Tyler. 24 years old, still living at home, and according to neighborhood gossip, recently kicked out of his girlfriend's place for creative differences, which I suspected meant he'd been caught doing something spectacularly stupid. Tyler, I called out. Come on down, buddy. Let's chat. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Comment below. Would you fight back legally, or would you handle this differently? Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. How did you? Lucky guess. I headed for the stairs. Tyler, I'm coming up. Fair warning. I'm armed, trained, and I haven't had my coffee yet. Let's make this easy on everyone. He's not here. Karen shrieked. You're harassing an innocent family. Right. Because breaking into someone's cabin and squatting for God knows how long was the hallmark of innocence. I reached the top of the stairs and found my bedroom door barricaded with my own dresser. Creative, I'll give him that. But I dealt with barricaded suspects before, and Tyler Whitmore wasn't exactly criminal mastermind material. Tyler, this is Detective Harrison. You've got 30 seconds to move the furniture and come out, or I'm calling backup. And trust me, they're much less patient than I am. The barricade started moving almost immediately. Apparently, Tyler had heard about my reputation around town. Smart kid. The door opened, and out shuffled the sorriest excuse for a burglar I'd ever seen. Tyler Whitmore. Tall, skinny, wearing my favorite shirt, and clutching my Nintendo Switch like it was a security blanket. Hey, Mr. Harrison, he mumbled. Funny seeing you here. Hilarious, I deadpanned. Especially since this is my house. Tyler stood there looking like a deer caught in headlights. If deer wore stolen clothing and had a talent for making spectacularly poor life choices. He was clutching my Switch so hard his knuckles had gone white. So, Tyler, I said conversationally, nice place you've got here. Very mine. I can explain. Oh, this should be good. I leaned against the doorframe. Please, enlighten me about how you accidentally broke into my cabin and decided to set up housekeeping. From downstairs, Karen's voice cracked like a whip. Tyler, don't say anything. He's trying to entrap you. I laughed. Actually laughed. Entrap him? Karen, your son is wearing my clothes in my bedroom, surrounded by evidence of an extended unauthorized vacation. The only thing I need to trap is maybe a mouse, and even that would require more effort than this case. Tyler's shoulders sagged. Look, Mr. Harrison, I was just between places, you know? Mom said you never came up here anymore, and Tyler, Karen's screech could have summoned bats. Shut up. Too late. The kid was already in confession mode, and I hadn't even offered him a deal yet. Your mother told you I never came here? I raised an eyebrow. Interesting theory, considering I was here 3 weeks ago for the Hendersons' anniversary party. You know, the one where Karen complained about the noise level of people having fun. Tyler's face went through several expressions. Confusion, realization, then that special kind of horror reserved for moments when you realize your mother has hung you out to dry. She said. He glanced toward the stairs where Karen was maintaining what I can only describe as aggressive silence. Let me guess. She said I'd abandoned the place? That it was becoming an eyesore? Maybe even suggested the HOA might need to intervene. Bingo. Tyler's expression told me everything I needed to know. I walked over to my window, the one Tyler had apparently been using as his emergency exit route. The screen was bent, and there were scuff marks on the siding. How long have you been here, Tyler? Just a couple weeks. Try again. The pizza boxes downstairs have dates going back 6 weeks. And unless you've mastered time travel, that expired milk in my fridge didn't spoil itself. He crumpled. 2 months. Maybe a little more. 2 months. This kid had been living in my cabin for 2 months, with his mother's knowledge and apparent blessing. Using my utilities, eating my emergency supplies, and probably throwing parties when the mood struck. How would you handle discovering a squatter in your own home? Tyler, I need you to step outside for a minute. I want to have a word with your mother. He shuffled past me, still clutching my Switch like a lifeline. I followed him downstairs, where Karen was pacing like a caged animal who'd just realized the cage door was open, but there was a hungry lion waiting outside. Karen, I said pleasantly, we need to talk. I don't have to talk to you. This is harassment. I'm calling the real police. I am the real police. And right now, I'm being very reasonable about the fact that your son has been squatting in my cabin for 2 months. My voice stayed level, but something in my tone must have registered because she stopped pacing. He wasn't squatting. He was house-sitting. House-sitting. Without my knowledge or permission. While I was paying utilities for him to live rent-free. I pulled out my phone again. You know what that's called, Karen? Breaking and entering. Criminal trespass. Theft of services. Want me to keep going? Her face had gone from red to white to an interesting shade of green. You can't prove I knew anything about it. Tyler, bless his stupid heart, chose that moment to pipe up. But Mom, you're the one who gave me the idea when you said, Tyler, shut your mouth. I grinned. This was better than cable TV. Tyler looked between his mother and me like a tennis ball at Wimbledon, except instead of athletic prowess, we were witnessing the spectacular collapse of what I suspect was Karen's master plan. When she said, "What, Tyler?" I asked gently, using my best detective voice, the one that made suspects forget they had the right to remain silent. Karen looked like she was about to have an aneurysm. "Tyler, I swear to God." She said you probably wouldn't even notice if someone stayed here, Tyler blurted out. She said you were probably too busy with your important police work to care about the cabin anymore. Oh, Karen, you magnificent, manipulative disaster. And then what happened? I prompted. She said maybe if someone was taking care of the place, maintaining it, you might appreciate it. Like a caretaker situation. Karen's eye was twitching. Actually twitching. A caretaker situation, I repeated slowly. Without my knowledge, consent, or compensation. That's an interesting business model, Karen. It's not what it sounds like. She was grasping at straws now. Tyler needed somewhere to stay, and your place was just sitting empty. My place was sitting empty because I was working. That thing people do to pay for their property, so entitled neighbors don't just decide to redistribute it. I walked over to my kitchen counter, where I'd noticed something earlier but hadn't fully processed. My spare house key, the one from the fake rock, was sitting right there next to a stack of mail. My mail, which someone had been collecting and opening. Tyler, I said conversationally, did you break in, or did someone give you a key? He glanced at his mother. She was making frantic, shut up, gestures behind my back, apparently forgetting I had eyes in the back of my head from years of dealing with idiots. Mom knew where you kept the spare, he mumbled. I picked up the mail stack. Credit card bills, utility notices, HOA correspondence, all opened, all read. Some had little post-it notes in Karen's handwriting. Notes like late payment and overdue opportunity. Karen, I said, holding up a bill with her handwriting on it. Want to explain why you've been going through my mail? I was checking for community violations. It's my duty as HOA president. Your duty? I nodded slowly. Your duty to commit a federal crime by tampering with mail that doesn't belong to you. That shut her up real quick. Mail tampering is a felony, and even Karen's pea brain could process that. I started putting pieces together out loud, partly for Tyler's benefit and partly because I was genuinely impressed by the scope of Karen's stupidity. So let me get this straight. You decided my cabin was underutilized. You gave Tyler my spare key and told him to maintain the property. You've been collecting and reading my mail, looking for, what exactly? Financial difficulties? Evidence I was abandoning the place. Karen's silence was deafening. And then, I continued, warming to my theme. When I showed up unexpectedly, instead of coming clean, you decided to double down and accuse me of violating HOA rules for returning to my own property. Tyler was staring at his mother like he was seeing her for the first time, which, knowing Karen, he probably was. The beautiful part, I said, is that if you just told Tyler to leave when you saw me coming, this would have been a simple trespassing issue. But you tried to bluff me. A cop. At my own house. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through contacts. Now I have to decide who to call first. The postal inspector about the mail tampering, or my sergeant about the breaking and entering. Wait. Karen finally found her voice. We can work this out. Tyler will leave. We'll forget this ever happened. Karen. I looked at her with the patience of someone explaining basic math to a goldfish. You've committed multiple federal crimes. Your son has been stealing utilities and squatting for 2 months. And you tried to intimidate me off my own property this morning. I smiled. But sure, let's work it out. The beautiful thing about being a cop is that you develop a sixth sense for when someone is about to do something spectacularly stupid. And Karen Whitmore was practically radiating stupid like a nuclear reactor. "You know what?" she said, puffing up like an angry pufferfish. "You can't prove anything. It's your word against ours, and Tyler was just helping out a neighbor." I blinked slowly. "Karen, are you actually trying to gaslight me right now? In my own house, with your son wearing my clothes?" Tyler had the decency to look embarrassed. He started peeling off my favorite flannel shirt. "Mom, maybe we should just put the shirt back on." "Tyler," I said, "I want photos for evidence." That's when Karen really lost it. "Evidence? You think you're so smart with your badge and your attitude? Well, I've got news for you, Detective Harrison. I know things about this community that would shock you." Oh, this was getting interesting. Such as the fact that half the HOA board has been skimming maintenance fees for years. Such as the fact that our treasurer's been using community funds for personal expenses. Such as the fact that, "Mother," Tyler actually shouted. "Shut up." But it was too late. Karen had entered full meltdown mode, and there's nothing quite like watching someone destroy themselves in real time. "You want to play hardball?" she continued. "Fine. I'll tell everyone how you never maintain your property, how you're never here, how you're probably not even paying your fair share of community expenses." I let her rant while I quietly opened my laptop and started the screen recording software I used for taking statements. Karen, in her fury, didn't notice. "And another thing," she shrieked, pointing at me like I was personally responsible for all her problems. "Your cabin is an eyesore. It's bringing down property values. The community would be better off if what, Karen? If someone who actually cared about the community lived here." And there it was. The real motivation. Karen didn't just want Tyler to have a place to stay. She wanted my cabin. Had probably been dreaming about getting her hands on waterfront property for years. "Someone like Tyler?" I suggested. "Tyler would take care of this place. He'd be here. He'd maintain it. He'd be a real contributing member of the community." I looked at Tyler, who was standing there in my stolen clothes, surrounded by evidence of 2 months of recreational trespassing, looking like he wanted to crawl under my coffee table and hide. "Tyler," I said, "in 2 months, did you pay any utilities? Maintenance fees? Property taxes?" He shook his head miserably. "Did you clean? Maintain the property? Make any improvements?" More head shaking. "What did you do here, Tyler?" I played video games. Ordered food. Slept in my bed. Ate my food. Used my utilities, and played games on my equipment. "Yeah." I turned back to Karen. "You're a contributing community member, ladies and gentlemen." That's when she made the mistake I'd been waiting for. "You can't do anything," she snarled. "I'm the HOA president. I have authority here. And I'm calling the sheriff's department right now to report you for harassment." She actually pulled out her phone and started dialing. I waited. "Yes, hello? I need deputies at 247 Lakeshore Drive immediately. The homeowner is threatening me and my son." I kept waiting. "What do you mean? What's the nature of the threat?" "He's being aggressive and intimidating." "He's what?" "Well, he says he's a detective, but anyone can say that." The dispatcher was apparently asking follow-up questions because Karen's confidence started wavering. "His name? It's Mike Harrison. Detective Mike Harrison." Long pause. "What do you mean, stand by?" Longer pause. Karen's face went white. I see. Yes, I'll wait." She hung up and stared at me with growing horror. "They know you," she whispered. "Karen," I said gently, "I've been working with the county sheriff's department for 23 years. The dispatcher you just talked to is my friend Janet. She's probably calling my sergeant right now to let him know about the interesting situation at my cabin." Right on cue, my phone rang. "Hey, Sarge," I answered cheerfully. "Yeah, I'm at the cabin." "No, everything's fine. Just dealing with some HOA drama." 20 minutes later, Deputy Sarah Chun, one of my former partners, pulled into my driveway with the kind of grin that meant she was about to enjoy her day immensely. Well, she said, getting out of her cruiser. "Mike Harrison and the infamous Karen Whitmore. This should be fun." Karen perked up like a drowning woman spotting a life preserver. "Deputy, Thank God you're here. This man has been harassing me and my son. Sarah looked at me. I held up my phone, which had been recording the entire conversation. Got it all, partner. Beautiful. Sarah turned to Tyler, who was still wearing my clothes like some kind of accidental confession. Son, you want to tell me why you're wearing someone else's property? The kid looked like he was going to cry. I've been staying here. Mom said it was okay. Mom said. Sarah nodded slowly. And did the homeowners say it was okay? I know. I thought he didn't care. You thought Detective Harrison, who you've known for years in this community, didn't care that you broke into his house and lived there for 2 months? When she put it like that, it sounded even stupider. Sarah turned to Karen. Ma'am, I need to see some identification. This is ridiculous. I'm the victim here. ID now. Grumbling, Karen handed over her license. Sarah examined it, then looked at me. Mike, you want to press charges? I considered it. Breaking and entering, criminal trespass, theft of services, mail tampering. We could probably add stalking and harassment to the list. Tyler was looking at serious jail time, and Karen would likely face federal charges. But you know what? Sometimes the best revenge is letting people destroy themselves. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Tyler is going to pack up his things, not mine, and leave. Karen is going to write me a check for 2 months of utilities plus damages, and both of them are going to stay off my property permanently. That's it. Sarah seemed disappointed. Oh, that's not all. I smiled. Karen mentioned some interesting things about HOA financial irregularities. I think the state attorney general's office would be very interested in an audit of the community accounts. Karen went pale. You can't. I can. And I will. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to resign your position and let someone honest take over. The silence stretched for a beautiful moment. Fine, Karen whispered. I'll resign. Excellent. I turned to Tyler. Son, you need help. This isn't normal behavior. Get counseling, get a job, get your life together. Because next time, and there won't be a next time on my property, I won't be so generous. Tyler nodded frantically and started gathering his things. Sarah was writing up her report when Karen made one last desperate play. This isn't over, Harrison. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. I laughed. Karen, in the last hour you've confessed to multiple crimes, tried to gaslight me in my own house, and threatened a police officer. By all means, tell everyone exactly what kind of person I am. I'm sure they'll be fascinated. 3 hours later, my cabin was Tyler-free. Karen had written me a check for $1,847 in damages and utilities, and I was finally enjoying that cup of coffee I'd been wanting since I arrived. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. HOA meeting next week should be interesting. Words already getting around about Karen's resignation. I grinned and settled back in my favorite chair, the one Tyler had been using as a gaming throne, and opened my laptop to file my own report with the state AG's office. Sometimes justice comes in handcuffs and courtrooms. Sometimes it comes in resignation letters and public humiliation. And sometimes it comes with a cup of coffee and the satisfaction of watching entitled people face the consequences of their actions. The lake was beautiful this morning. Peaceful. Quiet. Exactly the way I liked it. What would you do if you found squatters in your home? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story of justice served cold, hit that like button and share your own HOA horror stories below.